It's sunrise on the farm, not all that many years ago. There are lots of things that must be done today. Animals tended, fields tended. But first and foremost, water has to be drawn or pumped, or the day can't even begin.
Well, I'm old enough to remember when we drew water with buckets, little well buckets.
So that was one of the main jobs every morning, was drawing, making sure we had enough water drawn up for Mama to use during the day. And
then, when it's rain, we put drums on the corner of the house and catch water.
We'd draw up 3 or 4 wash tubs to put in the sun where we could bathe at night when we come in.
And if your pump's gone dry, you'll have to load up barrels and take them to the nearest water source and fill them up and bring them back.
A lot of people around us would come and get water in barrels. And then a lot of times they would forget and leave it on. And so when my mother would get home to fix supper, we had no water pressure.
Before the coming of community water and rural water associations, having water on hand away from municipalities was an all-consuming preoccupation.
People left their farms and moved to town, and that was one of the reasons they didn't have water.
But then came the loan, and pipes were laid and meters put in, and suddenly this was all there was to acquiring all the water needed for the house or the farm for the whole day. Turning on the tap. There could hardly be any more revolutionary development for rural America than community water associations.
Economically, the rural areas of Mississippi would not have thrived the way they have thrived without water.
And almost as immediately as the water systems were in place came regulations and standards. And so came into existence the state rural water associations to make sure the local folks who ran the community systems knew how to implement the new rules.
These water operators have to be certified and licensed through the state of Mississippi and Department of Environmental Quality. Every 3 years they have to renew their license. The water operators, people in the water industry, they are a unique kind of people. They have to love it. And getting in the mud when it's 20 degrees outside, just so your customers have water, you got to love it.
And the USDA, as well as the state health departments and state legislators and the federal Congress, all began looking to the individual state rural water associations to assimilate the new laws and regulations affecting the local systems and turn the written words of the regs into deeds, into tangible applications, so each individual water association can be compliant and safe and healthy.
Let me tell you, they are an absolute asset to Mississippi rural development. Without their assistance, some of these small towns would not be able to provide the clean, safe drinking water that we all depend on throughout Mississippi.
We're probably the only country in the world that you can go from all over the country and know that when you get a drink of water that it's going to be safe.
Another role the Rural Water Association has taken on, it's the watchdog over legislation, being the buffer between big government and the community water systems, especially the small water systems.
Believe it or not, we have some water systems still in the state of Mississippi that serves 50 customers. And any regulation hurts them.
The other importance of the Rural Water Association is their influence in the Mississippi Capitol. On occasion, you'll see someone that would like to alter the makeup of the Rural Water Associations or somehow change that system. It works well. If there are benefits from any changes, we turn to the men and women of the Rural Water Associations to make those, not the bureaucrats in state government. Because we know they have an influence in this building, and thank goodness the men and women in the House and the Senate pay attention, and so we have had a great system because of their influence and impact here in the state capitol.
Not only does the Mississippi Rural Water Association carry a lot of influence in Jackson, it also carries a lot of influence in Washington on your behalf.
It's the job of the Rural Water Association to provide safe and clean potable water. But as you know, there are many state and federal regulations that control much of what you do every day. That's why it's important to have a Mississippi Rural Water Association as your voice with your utilities and your regulatory schemes, both at the state level and at the federal level. They carry a lot of weight here.
When new regulations are passed, the Mississippi Rural Water Association then deciphers them and also helps disseminate that information. And one of the most important roles the State Water Association does is provides training to its members.
It's an ever-changing industry because you've always got these EPA new rules, you've got health department new rules, so it's an ever-changing business that requires a lot of continuous training, and Mississippi Rural Water just offers scads of that.
So the local systems are up to date and being operated by knowledgeable people. Those local people who run the systems are neighbors and customers of the systems themselves. They always try to make sure the water system is something people never have to give a second thought to. And when something does go wrong, they get it right quickly because they know how important water is.
So when our members get home, they have water. Not only do they have water, they have good, safe, clean water.
Getting water back is especially important after a natural disaster. The Mississippi Rural Water Association has proved invaluable, assisting local associations and municipalities in this.
There was just a massive amount of need, and the outpouring of support from people like Mississippi Rural Water Association who came in and helped us restore water, and the power associations neighboring coming in helping restore electricity. It was really, as I've been told, unprecedented how quickly we restored basic services and utility services in our area.
Oftentimes, and most times, the water is the first thing cut back on.
Did you ever think how important water is? You know, no one lives where there's no water.
When you pass Dallas or Fort Worth, you can't find any water all the way to California, and they're about out.
And even here in Mississippi, where there's water everywhere you look, people only live where there's a steady supply of reliable fresh water. That's been going on for a long time now. For instance, the Native Americans located near water. The grand village of the Natchez Indians is on the banks of St. Catherine's Creek, for example. And even when the settlers came, their towns tended to be near established water supplies. Clinton and Hinds County grew up around Robinson Springs. Today, the same thing. Our rural areas are booming because of the automobile, rural electricity, and even more important, rural community water associations. Because even if you have power, you have to have water to live there.
No, if it wasn't for the rural water systems, the counties people would not move back into the state. Yeah, I think the best thing that ever happened to the rural people is, since REA is rural water. Because without that, you take now, living in the country is like living in a city. You got lights, you got all the conveniences of a town.
And I guess that's the overarching accomplishment of the Mississippi Rural Water Association. By training local operators, offering assistance in the form of manpower or equipment or expertise or discounts to local systems through cooperative purchasing, by supporting the local operators who are the frontline soldiers on their home systems and then being the buffer between them and the bureaucrats, what comes out of your tap is some of the cleanest, safest water in the world. And you never have to give it a second thought.